So here we have the plenum that we made in our last video. The surface is still rough. We've got some imperfections in different places. It needs a little bit of finish work. Some of the mold material didn't quite come off, so I'm just going to have to clean all this out, make sure everything's nice and smooth. Our flange surface looks excellent. And then I had to cut the neck shorter because I had some issues with it fusing right here. So I'm going to have to kind of work this out, make sure I can still attach the throttle body to it without any issues. But when we're done, this slightly imperfect part will look more like our intake and airbox. So it's a little bit more of a shine to it, more of a smooth surface. So let's get started. Now, for maximum lightness and strength, you can just leave the part like this. Finish work will add a slight amount of weight to it, and all of these places that we're sanding, it may cause a little bit of loss of strength in those areas, but it's going to be minimal and it's going to look a lot better. So for the improved presentation, I'm going to do some finish work. Alright, so all the leftover filler has been sanded out from our underside. I've added some 2-part epoxy to smooth out this transition here and fill in some little gaps in places. While I'm waiting for that to dry before I can sand it smooth, I'm going to go ahead and trace an outline using this old gasket. We'll get that taped on, trace around it so we know where we'll be cutting off to trim down the manifold. It's starting to look a lot more like a finished product. Got all our holes cut out, excess trimmed off. Still got some work to do on the neck back here. So I still need to add some tabs back here, and this needs to be coated at least 2 layers of carbon just to build it back up a little bit. But it's really turning out great. Inside nice and smooth. So just a little bit more finishing work and we'll be ready to go in the car. Alright, so here we have our airbox and the velocity stack it'll eventually sit on top of to narrow it down to the 3.5-inch intake tube. This is 5 inches in diameter and this whole piece is 6 inches in diameter. So my plan is to fill in this under section with resin and then cut along this outer silver line so that I can use clamps just like on a toolbox. I might do 3, but probably 4, so I can sit the airbox on here and clamp it down, and that'll hold the two together and keep an airtight seal. So you can see now how I've got the epoxy sitting all in this gap here. So when I cut it down, I'll have a nice smooth vertical surface. Here we have the old filter on the left and the new filter on the right. The new filter is about 40% larger than the old one. It's also the advantage of the fact that it's brand new. The old one is really dirty. Carved this kind of crude cone out of foam. What I'll do is I'll then make that out of carbon. Basically the plan is to make this edge right here nice and straight, so that when it's carbon, I can then slide it down over this little edge here and silicone it on, so that if I ever need to replace this, I don't have to make another carbon cap, but it should make for a nice smooth airflow into the airbox. Here is how we're going to attach the 2 parts of the airbox. We have the velocity stack down here and the airbox itself. It's just the same type of clamp that you put on your toolbox. Got 3 of them all the way around. That way I can easily pop out the air filter. It's almost factory. Here's how we're going to attach the throttle body to the plenum. It's a press-fit aluminum plate, and it will epoxy all the way around the back and on the seam here, and then the throttle body will mount directly to that. Test fit of the plenum is going well. Everything's fitting super nice. Should have it up and running soon. I've got the throttle body attached to the plenum. I'm going to go ahead and install everything onto the car. I'm not going to use RTV on the plenum yet. This will be the last test install. I just want to make sure everything fires up and works properly before final install. Hopefully this will be the final test install. The only thing I'm waiting on is a 45-degree silicone elbow to connect the intake tube to the throttle body. So once I get that, I can measure exactly how much I need to cut this tube down and put our intake elbow in. But yeah, everything lays down nice and flat. It's nice and firm. My only concern is that under a heavy vacuum, it might deform it here in the middle, but I can build a support to use these two center bolts that I'm no longer using just to support this center section. Another side weight advantage is I get to use these smaller bolts. 8 of the smaller bolts, 3 studs here, here, and here. Studs are there to hold on my grounding kit onto the bottom manifold, which is still made of metal. And now I have to use one socket cap screw right in here because it's just too tight to get regular hex bolt in. But yeah, I'm extremely happy with how this looks. This looks amazing. It's kind of unbelievable to be at this point where all I'm waiting on is a 45-degree intake elbow. Gotta make one cut, plug in the MAF and the throttle body, and I can literally fire the car up. Here comes the moment of truth. I am extremely nervous right now. I can't even begin to tell you. I have my old intake tube on here and the old 45-degree elbow that got destroyed when we made the neck for the plenum because I'm still waiting on the other one. It's lost in the mail. So just gonna start it like this. This is just a test start for the plenum. It's completely RTV'd in. I made sure to wait, give the RTV some time to dry before I fully tightened it down. But everything is torqued down, throttle body's all set up, everything's plugged in. I don't have any engine codes right now, so it hasn't thrown any codes or anything like that. This is the official first start on the plenum. So nice. It works! First test start, I think, was a success. Plenum is intact. It ran a little lean. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to drive it like this to the dyno. I'm gonna take it on a test drive in just a little bit, see if we can drive it around, see if those air-fuel ratios stabilize a little bit. It's just a little bit lean, and I don't want to drive it like that for 4 hours, so I may have to put the old plenum back on just for the drive up there, and then we can back it onto the dyno. They can fatten up the ratio a little bit. But yeah, I can't believe it. I'm so excited that it worked. Next time you see the car, it'll be driving up to SOHO Motorsports in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're gonna dyno tune this, and fingers crossed we can get up to the 290 wheel mark. That's the goal. So thanks for watching. Thanks for keeping up with the series. If you haven't checked out parts 1, 2, 3, and 3.5, go back and check those out, and keep an eye out for part 4. It should be coming early in January, as my dyno date is on the 29th of December. Hit that subscribe button down below, and I will see you guys next week.